The Gators get 'em, we reckon. A bunch of locals were sat in the bar discussing how dogs in the area went missing. There's more to it than that, I can tell you. Sinclair, a respected hunter from out of state, spoke out in such a loud voice and with such emphatic emotion that all eyes naturally fell upon him. It was known that his champion hound had disappeared about a month before, causing him much distress. However, having perhaps called too much attention to himself, he became pale, the haunted look in his eyes as he stared in face after face, being all that he would relate of his bottled-up tale for that evening. Well, spit it out, man, commanded Dunluce from over his rum and soda. Tell the people what you told me. However, Sinclair merely shook his head, and with this pardonnez-moi left the room forthwith. What got into him? Dunluce sipped from his cup and then raised his forearm to his mouth to wipe fluid from his moustache. He seemed to enjoy that he had seized the audience of the other man, and he paused before speaking. That would be telling, wouldn't it? But I will say this much. Sinclair loved that hound of his, and he had a tracker in its collar, and when it went missing, he naturally went to follow it down. He told me that he knew the dog was still alive. The tracker led him deep into the swamp in his boat. It kept sending out these signals of the last position of the animal, but with the swamp water and the insects and the gators on top of that, he says he got to figuring that someone had kidnapped his dog and taken it out there for other purposes, seeing as the animal couldn't possibly stray into that terrain of its own accord. So he says that he found himself pushing through a wall of undergrowth on a raised bar of land that seemed out of place in the swamp. He said that there was a wooden structure on stilts on the other side with a cabin and a tower, like a secret base in the swamp. Mandel asked. He was a very pale-skinned man in a forage cap and a utility jacket who looked as if he had either just returned from a fishing expedition or was planning to head out on one in the next 30 minutes or so. Yeah, to be honest, it doesn't bear repeating. I think that when he lost his dog, he went a bit funny in his mind, too. I've been in and out the swamp all my life, and there ain't any crazy men holed up in its dark corners. I told him as much. Well, Mandel said, the Sinclair that I know wouldn't make things up. There's no need to spread stories, so I'll ask him myself when I see him next. I wouldn't if I were you. Look, I'll spill. This structure, like a tower or a crane over the swamp, he said that his dog was, as he watched, having arrived at just that moment, was being lowered towards the swamp water on a kind of hoist in a dog jacket at the end of a rope, and then it stopped about 10 meters above the water, and it was just dangling there. Did he mention they were waving flaming torches and chanting too? Smirked Mandel, but Dunluce shook his head. Nah, but he said he was half crazy wanting to go and rescue his hound. He said he'd a handgun and a high-powered rifle and a few sticks of dynamite even back in the boat. But before he could do anything, he said the largest reptile that he'd ever seen, not an alligator, but like one, but a lot bigger, sprang half out of the water and snapped the dog in two and then resubmerged. Then he saw the remains hoisted over to the jetty, and those guys came out and seemed to be like measuring the bite marks, he said. Sounds like a baloney story to me, mused Mandel. But this incarnate is revealing too many of our secrets. Don Luce looked round the faces of his listeners. All their eyes had turned alligator, amber,